Alright, hello and welcome to the fourth episode of the Orc Tactical Team. I'm Malorian from Warhammer, and what we're going to be talking about today is synergy tactics. So what synergy tactics is two or more units working together so that the sum of what they can do is greater than their parts. And the big thing that's a real push for this is that a lot of times you'll see people going too much on something more like the math or the priority tactics. So they'll compare two units, say two units of elite infantry, and they'll really break it down. Okay, they're about the same points, but this one has this amount of strength and this one has this, and oh boy, this one's obviously better. But they really don't take into context the other units that they can work with, the rest of the special rules of the army that they work with, and really the way that they synergize with the actual army. And so that's going to be a big thing I'm going to be talking about today. So let's start off with one of my favorites thing, and that's doing units of infantry synergizing with chariots. So I have the orcs here, and they're going to be dealing with these Bretonnian knights. Now, Bretonnian knights hit really hard. The block here can kind of hold, but they can't ever really do anything to the knights. And so, this doesn't have to be a Bretonnian knights. This could be really any enemy unit that you're up against. And so the idea here is that you have a chariot that can do lots of punch, but they don't have any static res. And you have the block here of orcs that have a lot of static res, but they don't really have any punch. So the way that this usually works is that the enemy unit, be it Brett's, whatever type of infantry, hits the unit, they kill some, but the unit holds because, they have a good amount of static combat res. There's probably a general, a banner, and then on the following turn, on the orc turn, boom, the chariot hits in. They still have all the combat res from the one orc unit. They now have the kill combat res from the chariot. And when this unit breaks, they now have the chariot, which gets to chase after them 3d6 to race ahead and to catch that unit. Okay, so that's one way that those two units can work together. Now, there's another type of fun orc chariot, which is called the pump wagon. Now, the problem with the pump wagon is that it kind of moves around randomly. It moves around, 2d6 every turn. And so it's really just kind of going randomly around the field, and usually it doesn't go far enough, and the enemy just charges it and kills it. So it's really kind of a waste. But if you synergize it with another unit, say this unit of orc boys, the way that this will look is that on the orc turn, the orc boys move up. This just aims to go towards the unit, and bing, stops here. Same thing, next turn, moves up. This thing, bing, hits to the side and stops. And eventually, when the enemies charge, it's exactly the same thing. They charge on their turn, and on the orc turn, this can just go forward, hit into them, and do those impact hits. And it's exactly the same as when you had the chariot there, except it's with this 40-point war machine instead. So there's that one. Now, there's another major one that we could talk about, and that's with throwaway units. And what throwaway units are usually a really cheap unit, 100 points or something, that's really out there to give you some sort of advantage in the movement phase. So in this, to start off with, we're going to have some wolf riders here. So some of the things you can do with these throwaway units, and we're beginning with a throwaway unit. It's a little crappy thing. It could be 5 free company from Empire. It can be 20 slaves from Skaven. They can't really do much on their own, but when they're paired up with another unit, all of a sudden they can. So some of the things they can do is that if they're blocking a unit, when they get charged, they flee, get destroyed, but then when these are forced to move their entire movement, they end up right in charge range of that big unit here for the counter charge. Another thing they can do is redirect. So they get hit, they win, and if they overrun, then they end up showing their flank. Or if you have someone that's obviously going to be smart enough not to pursue, if they don't have to, you just flee right off the bat. And either you get away or you get caught, but same thing, they're going off and they're showing their flank. Last thing that a throwaway unit can do is just wait to die. So you put in front of the unit that you really want to fight with in the following turn. Bretonnian unit hits, kills, and now either has the option of going on and charging or standing there. And obviously they want to charge. And the reason why you'd want to have this is that this brings in your chariot tactics. Because as before, it's like, well, okay, yes, I'm saying this unit can hold up to a Bretonnian charge. That might not actually be possible. Now you know that by the time that this unit actually hits on the orc turn, now you can counter with that chariot and do massive amounts of damage. And this really helps, because you're using 3 units together to be doing this. This helps a lot when you have a really powerful opponent's unit, so that by the time that they kill this little cheap unit, throwaway unit, you've now wiped out their front rank. You got your combat res to break them, and then you got the 3d6 chase from the chariot to run them down. Just to continue this on with thrower units, one of the best things that the orcs have is a single troll. And once again, I mean, it's a single troll. How much damage can it do? Not very much, but compared to the other throwaway unit, it's cheaper. It doesn't cause panic chests in anything because it's too small, and it's also immune to psychology, so you don't have to worry about it failing a fear test and not being able to do what you want it to do. Alright? Another thing you can do is matching up 2 weak units. So in this case, I'm going to have 2 units of orcs, but this can be any cheap infantry, and it can get any cheaper. I mean, you can do this with 2 units of Skaven slaves. Really cheap, but what the idea is here is that together they're going to synergize, because whatever unit those Bretonnians charge, let's say they're going to charge this one, they are just going to flee, fail charge, counter. And I don't care really what you are, unless you're extremely killy, even having some Skaven slaves in your flank is going to be extremely dangerous. Alright, so now we're going to get to some deployment synergy. And one of the main things that everybody should do whenever they're first putting together a list together is make kind of a chart like this. So this is just kind of a drawing of what your formation should look like. And, in this one we could say that the blocks are boys, these are chariots, and on the end we have our fast cat. And the idea of what you want to get with this is just kind of to go and compare this to chess again. In the way that you first have your layout in chess, no matter what pawn your opponent attacks, you have a way to counter. And with this, you're kind of looking to make sure that there's no weak points in your line. You have things that are going to be supporting each other. All the synergies are in place as soon as you put them down. And one of the things I can't stress about most about this part here is your bubble for your general and your BSB. I know that sounds like a really generic thing, and sure, everybody knows to try and keep them in range, but how many people, when they're first putting their army together, actually go to see, geez, how far out does that bubble go? If I have them in here, is it actually going to make it to this unit here? And if so, maybe I should make this one my Savage Orcs way off here on the flank so that they don't need that leadership bubble, right? Just finding ways to make it work together. So that's really what I want to talk about right now for synergies. It's a huge topic. It's actually one of my favorite aspects of Warhammer. And I mean, I could talk about this forever. And what I'm going to be doing is, after I touch on all these main topics, I'm going to start taking these on one by one after. So don't worry. There's a lot more synergies out there, a lot more, and I'm going to be coming back to talk about them for all the armies as we go on. I just wanted to really get some examples out there to kind of show you some of the ideas behind it. Next week, when I go and I talk about this, I'm going to be bringing up the psychological tactics, and that should be a lot of fun. So hope to see you there. Bye.